In my research, I discovered that some people entertain the idea that the Star of Bethlehem could have been a conjunction of stars. I found evidence of 2 conjunctions in that geographical region during the supposed time of Jesus' birth. However, both of these conjunctions involved only 3 stars coming together. A conjunction, astrologically speaking, occurs when 3 planets or stars happen to align in the sky simultaneously, a phenomenon that can be observed through astrology charts. Nevertheless, such conjunctions involve 3 celestial bodies, not 4, and they are typically transient, with the stars moving again after a day or so. The described brightness of the light during the event, comparable to daylight, and the pervasive illumination all around challenge the conventional understanding of a typical conjunction. The narrative suggests a potent light, making some argue that it could have been a UFO-related event. In my book, I leave it to readers to draw their own conclusions. The possibility of UFO involvement gains support from accounts in my other book, Legacy from the Stars, where people from ancient times described beings emerging from UFOs as angels or messengers conveying messages and news. There's a story in the book where witnesses in a desert community saw a disk skimming across the desert floor, landing where they stood. Beings emerged on smaller disks, suggesting an otherworldly nature. In those times, UFOs and their occupants were perceived as messengers and angels. When guiding people back into biblical times, I present this perspective, raising the possibility that the Star of Bethlehem might have been a convergence of UFO lights. As a student at Qumran, Jesus reportedly witnessed spacecraft coming and going, with beings inside. The Essenes, who preserved ancient knowledge, were viewed favorably by these beings, implying that interactions with extraterrestrial entities were considered quite ordinary during that era. Now, some of these concepts might be challenging for you to grasp as I delve into various aspects of my work. Nevertheless, I intentionally incorporated them into the book Jesus and the Essenes, because I wanted to convey that these phenomena were accepted during that historical period. After the Star of Bethlehem episode in the book, I moved forward in time, delving deeper into questions about the star. During this exploration, the girls shared that the star remained visible in the sky for 2 months. She elaborated on the Magi, described as wise men in the Bible but known as astrologers, who had observed a specific astrological chart at the time of Jesus' birth. Each Magi followed one of the stars and was to meet where they all converged. According to her account, there were supposed to be 4 Magi, each following one of the stars. However, only 3 attended the meeting point, leading to the popular story of the 4th wise man that circulates during this time of year. Some TV narratives even suggest the existence of a 4th Magi. The girl asserted that, based on Essene knowledge, there should have been a 4th Magi, but his fate remains unknown as he failed to reach the meeting point with the other 3. She confirmed certain elements of the biblical account, such as the wise men going to the palace seeking the newborn, as accurate. Additionally, the narrative of the massacre of infants ordered by Herod was deemed truthful. According to her, the Bible holds many true accounts, but there are also divergent stories that take different directions. She emphasized the fitting nature of discussing the mystery of the actual Star of Bethlehem, especially as Christmas approaches. Furthermore, she recounted witnessing the baby Jesus when Mary and Joseph sought refuge at Qumran to escape Herod's massacre of infants. The narratives involving John the Baptist, Mary, Elizabeth, and Zechariah were also touched upon. Initially, I expected to find all the verifications in the Bible during my research, but I realized that wasn't the case. My own work provided additional insights, filling in gaps that couldn't be fully addressed through biblical sources alone. There were numerous gaps in the entire story, and the information that filled many of these gaps comes from a very old book known as the Aquarian Gospel. This book provided insights into aspects that I believed should have been included in the Bible. When Mary and Joseph, who were Essenes taught at Qumran, had to flee to Egypt to escape soldiers searching for infants due to a census, they naturally stopped at Qumran on their way. At that time, Sudi had the opportunity to see the baby Jesus for the first time. According to Sudi, Jesus was not like any ordinary baby. He did not cry, was remarkably quiet, and had the most beautiful eyes, as though they could see beyond the world. Little did Sudi know that he would later become Jesus's teacher. Upon their return from Egypt, Sudi became the teacher of both Jesus and John the Baptist when they were still young boys. An interesting revelation about their appearance surfaced. Jesus had red hair and blue eyes, and so did John the Baptist, whose red hair was described as fiery. This might challenge the common perception of their appearance, especially in a region known for darker features. However, historical accounts indicate that in Brown Nazareth, where Jesus grew up, there were many blonde and red-haired people during that period. The prevalent dark skin color and hair color associated with the region came later through intermarriage with people from the south of Africa. Sudi noted the distinct personalities of Jesus and John the Baptist. John, with his fiery red hair, was outgoing and demonstrative, while Jesus was quiet, with a gaze that conveyed profound understanding. Sudi faced the challenge of teaching someone who seemed to know more than he did. Jesus could interpret legal principles in a fair and unique way, surpassing what Sudi had learned. Jesus continued to learn at Qumran until around the age of 13. By the time Jesus had completed all his studies, he had learned everything that could be taught, including the art of healing, curing illnesses, and even raising the dead. Contrary to some beliefs, Jesus did receive training and instruction from the wisest teachers of his time. Many in the church may prefer the narrative that Jesus spontaneously possessed all knowledge, emerging from the hills one day, but evidence points to a different reality. During the often referred to missing years in Jesus's life, where the Bible offers no explanation, it was revealed that his uncle was Joseph of Arimathea. While the Bible briefly mentions him as the rich man who buried Jesus's body after the crucifixion, Joseph of Arimathea was a highly influential figure of that era. He was among the wealthiest individuals globally, engaging in significant trade, particularly with tin mines in England. Joseph's fleets of ships transported the tin, a highly valuable commodity at the time, to be traded across the world. His immense wealth granted him respect from the Romans and ensured that no one would challenge him. Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus on some of these trading expeditions, initially under the guise of a trading mission. However, the true purpose was for Jesus to learn from the wisest teachers in each country they visited. Even when Jesus was young, his mother Mary accompanied them on these trips. This clandestine education exposed Jesus to a diverse range of teachings and wisdom from various cultures and regions, shaping him into a learned individual with a deep understanding of the world. All the people Jesus encountered had vast accumulations of knowledge, and remarkably, he could absorb this information rapidly. It wasn't just a matter of going back and forth learning from one teacher to another in India, China, and various known places, accumulating an extensive range of knowledge. Among the groups that significantly contributed to his education were the Druids in England, who were close friends with Joseph of Arimathea. In the area around Glastonbury, they had a renowned university at that time, considered one of the largest and most educated in the world. Despite later attempts by the Romans to depict the Druids as barbaric with sacrificial practices, they were, in fact, highly educated, much like the other groups Jesus encountered. The Druids had a vast amount of knowledge, attracting people from far and wide who sought to learn from them. Jesus learned from the Druids, one of the primary groups shaping his understanding. While I won't delve into the entire story tonight, my subsequent research, enriched by numerous books, especially from England, shed light on the legends and stories related to the time Jesus spent visiting there. Notably, Glastonbury is where the first church in the world was established, within 10 years after Jesus' crucifixion. Joseph of Arimathea, Mary Magdalene, and several other disciples founded the initial building during Jesus' travels back and forth. Following the crucifixion, they returned, establishing the first church based on Jesus' teachings, known as the Way, during that time. Unlike structured systems, Jesus envisioned the church as a place for sharing information and knowledge, promoting discussions, and allowing different individuals to contribute. It was not meant for worship but rather for passing on what he had learned. Glastonbury played a significant role in Jesus' learning journey, along with Qumran, where Suthi would observe and report on the young man's progress upon his return. All of this information is detailed in the book Jesus and the Essenes. After years of traveling back and forth, when Jesus was around 20 years old, Suthi noted that Jesus was formulating a unique philosophy, one of love. In contrast to the prevalent Jewish philosophy of fear, where God was viewed as condemning, Jesus' philosophy centered on love as a means to eliminate violence in the world. Suthi expressed amazement at this novel perspective and how Jesus intended to communicate directly with people, avoiding the holier-than-thou approach used by many teachers of that time. Jesus told Suthi that during his travels, he observed most teachers looking down on students, using complex terminology that made it difficult for the common people to understand. In that era, education was primarily for boys, focusing on subjects like mathematics, the Torah, reading, and writing. Girls were often limited to learning housekeeping and motherhood. The Essenes and Qumran played a crucial role in providing education that went beyond these conventional subjects, offering knowledge that couldn't be acquired elsewhere. Notably, many people, especially women, couldn't read or write during that time. Jesus, however, had a significant number of women followers and disciples, challenging societal norms. Women, including Mary Magdalene, an Egyptian priest with profound knowledge of healing and metaphysical matters, were drawn to Jesus because they could comprehend the intuitive concepts he sought to teach. Despite facing jealousy from some male disciples, like Peter, Jesus valued the understanding and communication he shared with these women. This aspect challenges traditional views perpetuated by some parts of the church. In that historical period, the majority of people lacked the ability to read or write. Jesus recognized this and decided to communicate with them in a way that they could comprehend, employing elements from nature that they could relate to. Thus, he introduced the concept of parables, using these narratives to convey teachings grounded in nature and enabling people to understand the stories he wished to tell. Suthi, reflecting on this innovative approach, remarked that such a method had never been attempted before. Jesus was determined that his teachings would be accessible and not beyond the understanding of the people. The book Jesus and the Essenes features numerous parables not found in the Bible, some of which delve into the themes of reincarnation and rebirth. This underscores that Jesus was acquainted with and believed in these concepts. Another notable episode in the book recounts Jesus beginning his ministry, with stories circulating about the miracles he performed. One particular night, as Jesus spoke in a synagogue near Nazareth, an old teacher discreetly positioned himself at the back of the synagogue to listen. Though typically synagogues were venues for arguments and loud discussions, when Jesus spoke, his melodious voice captivated the audience, silencing everyone in attendance. The account emphasizes that Jesus, with his exceptional speaking ability, stood out as a truly unique and authentic speaker. I discovered that Jesus experienced loneliness because many people in his time couldn't comprehend what he was witnessing. He felt like a person out of time, someone who didn't belong to that era. In the book They Walked with Jesus, we delved even further into his ministry, exploring the lives of women who were with him during this period. These women accompanied him as he entered villages, including one with lepers, where he not only healed but also taught others to heal. Jesus conveyed the message that everyone possessed a healing center in the palm of their hand, illustrating it with a circle in his own palm. Witnesses described seeing lights emanate from his hands during the healing process, aligning with metaphysical practices seen today, such as the laying on of hands. Contrary to common perceptions, Jesus didn't heal everyone he encountered. The Bible and churches often overlook this aspect. Jesus had the ability to perceive if a person's condition was karmic, respecting the laws of reincarnation and karma. If the illness or disease was karmic, he couldn't remove it completely, though he could alleviate pain. The two books, Jesus and the Essenes, contain numerous stories about the healings and teachings he imparted. However, the time allotted for this discussion is drawing to a close, and I realize an hour isn't sufficient to cover all the information. I've lectured globally on these topics and plan to return to delve into various subjects. My extensively researched books have become classics worldwide, with Jesus and the Essenes even being translated into Russian. In March, during my European tour, I'll be in Russia to discuss many new books that are gaining popularity there. It's remarkable how these stories continue to unfold, and I consider it my responsibility to share them with the world.